Okay, so welcome everyone to today's session on boundaries of work management, work environment management, which will be presented by our own OSHPRO International Relations Management Manager, Abdul Qadir Muhammad, who also happens to work with the Norwegian Labor Inspections Authority. I don't want to take any more time. Abdul Qadir, you can take over from here.
Thank you very much, Imran. Is there anybody else getting echo? Second. Okay, let's try again. Thank you, Imran, for the introduction, and I'll reiterate welcome to this session on boundaries of work environment management. I'll be presenting this, and since today it's World Day for Safety and Health at Work 2023, so congratulations for all of you on this day. I hope you had a fruitful and useful day. And since the topic of today's health and safety at work is on work environment, then it makes sense maybe to talk a little bit more on our working environment. You'll see differences maybe in terminology used as working environment or work environment. Actually, it's one and the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. So I will be referring to work environment in this presentation, but it has the same meaning as working in used in working environment. So I'm going to talk about work environment, what it is. Maybe give a definition. It's not very easy, but we'll get the definition, and then we'll look a little bit at work domain analysis, what it is, because this is the basis of what I'm going to present. Then we'll look at some aspects of work environment management that are based on the work domain analysis. So we look at the purpose, what is purported to be the purpose of work environment management, and the values, what we want to attain, and then purpose-related functions, which functions are necessary to attain the values and the purpose of the work environment management. So this will be what I'm going to talk about. And the whole presentation is based on an article which is published nearly in early this year by the title "Exploring Work Environment Management Boundaries Using Work Domain Analysis." That's why it's a bit it will be a bit interesting to bring in the work domain analysis so that you have an understanding of what it means or what it is. The article is published in Safety Science, one of the leading international journals on safety and occupational health generally. There is a link there, so when you get the presentations, which will be made available after this session from the web page from where you logged in, then you can access the article for those who would be interested to read the entire article. It's quite long, but maybe some people will be interested, so you'll be able to access it. So starting with work environment or working environment as you wish is a multidimensional concept. So it covers many different concepts, and according to Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, that's the OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, they've put a different concepts under work environment. So the nature of task, that's part of work environment. What is the task? How is it a physical task? Is it just sitting on a desk? So nature of task, that's part of a work environment. Then the physical and social conditions of the work. So physical conditions, of course, have the temperature, the room where the work is done, the social conditions. Are you meeting with other co-workers? Are you working alone? Such as social conditions. Then you have the workplace characteristics and organization. Is it outside? Is it inside? How is the work planned? Do you work during the day? Do you work during the evening? How is the work scheduled? Do you have to, how many hours one has to work? Then work prospects for the workers. This maybe it's not something which people will think of very much when they're talking about work environment, because focus is mostly on safety and occupational health. That's most what people will focus on. But what prospects do the workers have in the work they do? Is there any progression? Is there any self-actualization which can happen in that work? So this all is part of work environment. And then the intrinsic rewards associated with the work. So when they do that work, what do they get out of it? Do they get some kind of a personal satisfaction that they've done something positive? Is the work such a way that when somebody goes home, they feel that today I've contributed in national building? What intrinsic rewards are associated with the work? Maybe these are things that will not be available in all workplaces, but when we are talking about work environment and we want to talk about healthy or good work environment, then according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, these are what you need to have as part of work environment. Then again, further, according to the OECD, work is characterized in terms of work demands. How much do you have to work? The physical and emotional demands. Do you get frustrated at work? Do you get tired? How much is the work demanding of you? The working time, because all these will have effect on the worker. So what prospects in job insecurity? We've talked a little bit about this. Work resources, such as task discretion, social support, opportunity for advancement and self-realizations. These are part of what characterize work, the work you do. And we've seen what the content of work environment is. So if we could, from what we've said and your experiences and what you know and what you work with and as health and safety experts, if you could just write in the chat, what will be your definition of work environment? How will you define work environment? So you can write in the chat and let's see what we get. Just write what you think the definition, just short. You don't have to write a whole thesis. Just write a sentence or so on what you think work environment should be defined as. Let's see what will come up in the chat. Don't think very much about you just a simple definition. Gladys has started. Thank you, Gladys. Where I need to be by virtue of my work. Okay, that's where Gladys will define work environment. Anybody else willing to share what you think work environment can be defined as? Nobody? Okay, let's not waste much time. Okay, Imran, all the elements and entities that surround my work. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can get some kind of definition. So what is put in work environment definition is that there's first is workers' health and safety at an identifiable workplace where you can have causes of accident and illnesses. So thank you. Now I see there are many more coming up. Any building, vessel, or structure where people work. So that's the identifiable workplace where and what I used to work. Okay. So we have first we have identifiable workplace. That's a place where there can be causes of accident and illnesses. And then the job factors related to people interactions and their work organization. So because we don't work isolated as an island, we work with other people. So the interactions related to people and their work organization. And finally, workers' well-being resulting from the environment in which they perform their work. So all this will be defining what work environment is. So it's not just the building, or it's not just the people you work with, or the type of work you do, but a combination of all this will define work environment. So the next thing is justifiable work environment and what it is. Now, a justifiable work environment, if we just think, well, justifiable, it should be something that it's reasonable, but justifiable is defined, Fagerly defined justifiable work environment to be a legal standard. So there are regulations which require that the work environment should be at certain level, it should be of certain type, or it should be of certain characteristics. So for a justifiable work environment, that we can say that this is a good work environment. For the first it is a legal standard. It refers to a legal standard describing how the work environment may change according to societal development and norms to date. So as the society changes, we expect that the work environment will be changing. Because the norms of the society are changing, we don't expect the work environment to be static. So as the society changes, as the way people think change, as the attitude of the people change, the work environment will change to reflect what the changes in the society. So according to Fagerly, this is it's a standard, it's a legal standard that will be changing according to the changes in the society and the development in the society. And further, justifiable work environment entails an obligation on workplace management. Now we're coming to the management part. It entails an obligation on workplace management to adapt and organize work situations and conditions and priorities that will enable systematic fulfillment of work environment functions. So we've given several functions in the beginning. The start, we've listed a number of things that the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development put into work environment. So for the management, they have to facilitate the systematic fulfillment of these work environment functions. And we'll see what the managers need to do to fulfill this this obligation. So justifiable work environment, I just repeat, entails an obligation on the workplace management to adapt and organize work situations and conditions. So their work situation and conditions of work, the priorities of the workplace to enable systematic fulfillment of work environment functions. Okay. So I have some few questions which we'll try to answer by the end of this presentation. We will have got answers to this to all these questions. So the first question is, what is the purpose of work environment management? Why do you want to have work environment management? Because if we don't have a purpose, then everything is it's just happening haphazardly. So we need a purpose that will be our lighthouse to guide us for how to have the work environment management. And then what values or principal measures are attained from the purposes? Are there any in a way to measure if we fulfill the purposes? What indicators will tell us that we've fulfilled the purpose of the work environment management? We need to have something that can measure if we fulfill what we set as a purpose for work environment management. And then the most important thing is we need the functions, the functional aspects of the work environment management, because these are the things which we have to do to attain the purpose. So we need these functions. What are these functions which we need for us to have work environment management and attain the purposes for we've set for the management? Before I go to that, to answering the questions, I want to take you a little bit through work domain analysis. Just briefly, it's work domain analysis. It's very wide, but just briefly so that you can get an idea of what it is. Work domain analysis is a kind of work analysis, but what we do in the analysis is to look at the constraints, the limitations we have. When you're doing any type of work, this is applicable to any type of work, and when you think of it, you'll agree with me that any type of work has some limitations. You can do the work within certain limitations. If you are driving, for example, the speed limits, if you don't obey these limitations, you'll get in trouble somehow. You'll end up in trouble. So, for example, if you're driving and you have a speed limit, if you don't observe that speed limit, you can end up in an accident, or at least the minimum, maybe you'll be stopped by the police and be fined. So there's always some limitation in the work we do. There's nothing we do that is open and endlessly, and you cannot you don't have any constraints. So we're talking of constraints, we're talking of deadlines, we're talking of difficulties and challenges. So when you're walking, from one point A to point B, you meet obstacles along the way, and you have to walk around these obstacles maybe, or climb over them. So these are limitations which guide the way you perform your work. So everybody have their behavior at workplaces, and it's very difficult to change the behavior of people in work, generally in workplaces or other places. So if you come and tell them, oh, you are doing this and this and that, and you have to change, it's very difficult, especially if it's something people have been doing for a long time. So what do you have, or what can you do to make them change their behavior? You change their environment. If you change the environment, automatically people will have to change their behavior. For example, if you are going from a point A to point B, and you have to go to cross a road, a very busy road, and you cross that road, what the limitations that you have is that you cross that road and you risk being knocked down by a car, for example. But that's your route. That's the way, the place you have to pass through. So if somebody comes and put a fence along that road, you cannot cross it. What you'll do, you have to get to the other side. You'll find an alternative way. Although this is your shortcut, this is the easiest way to your home. If there's a fence there, you'll not climb over the fence, but you'll walk along the fence and find somewhere else to cross. So you change your behavior because somebody has put some constraint on what you have. So changing behavior is possible by changing the environment. And this is what work domain analysis is all about. You look at what constraints what the work has and how can you change these constraints to change the behavior of people. So you don't change the behavior of people trying to tell them not to do something, but by changing, by looking at what you have, what limits you, what are the constraints, and then you get what you have to do. So normally the work domain analysis will be divided in 5 in hierarchical steps. 5. The first one is functional purposes. So if you have to look at any type of work, if it's safety work, if it's we're talking about safety. So if you're looking at your safety work, you look at what is the functional purpose? What do I want to achieve? As I mentioned earlier, what values and priorities do I want in this work? What are the purposes related functions? What are the objects, the physical things that you need for that for that work to be done? Are there special tools you need? And if you need tools, that's a physical object. But what processes are you going to have to use that tool for? So these are 5 levels. We will only look at the first 3 because the first 3 are related to humans, and the last two are related to the resources and the physical resources. So we'll not look at those, but we'll look at the first 3. I hope this with the work domain analysis is clear, but if it's not, it doesn't matter. You'll still understand when we come to the main part, and this is where we start. So from the work domain analysis, we're looking at the purpose, and this I must say it was built on the Work Environment Act, the Norwegian Work Environment Act, which is quite similar to the OSHA Act of 2007 of Kenya. These 2 acts, although they are different in different worlds, you could say, but they have more or less similar content. So from the work domain analysis based on the Norwegian Work Environment Act, you'll see that what I'm going to bring forward is not something that will be limited only for workers in Norway or for developed country, but you'll see that this is what workers in Kenya also need. So from that, you get the first part, which are what are the purposes. So if you read in the Act, these are what are listed as the purposes of the Act. And this is what is expected to be implemented by the workplace management, that there's progressive work environment operations, that the work environment is not static, that it progresses and it improves. There's safeguarding of fairness, that all the employees are treated in the same way, irrespective of who they are or what orientation they have, or if they are handicapped, or if they are physically fit. Men, women, all should be treated fairly. And they should have the possibility to express themselves. So when something is wrong, they should be able to say that this is wrong, we cannot do it, cannot work. They should have that possibility to express themselves. There should be needs adaptations. Those who need some extra support to be able to do their work. For example, if you have people who are handicapped at your workplace, so your workplace should be adapted such that those people who are handicapped can work without any difficulties. And then work environment development, that this should be improving in the way the work is done. And have inclusion. Inclusion is more general, where everybody has a right to get employed. Everybody has a right to decent employment. That you don't want to have a workplace where you only have men or only women, although this is the case in most of the places. So these are generally the purposes of what work environment management should be. And then what are the values? So what will be the values that will indicate that such purposes are attained? Then you have improved workers' health. We'll come a little bit to more details of this. I have improved workers' health and well-being, improved safety standards, workers' self-actualization. There are programs for health promotion. There's management commitment on all aspects. There are resources allocated for different needs for the occupational safety and health. There's a strategy and strategy management that states how things should be done and how different goals should be attained. That there's compliance and accountability on the management part, that they comply with the regulations and they are accountable. They can be held accountable. So whatever, everything that happens, the management is accountable for it. And justifiable employment, so that the employment and the work done goes with the way time changes and how the company changes and how the workforce changes. So what the lines going from, I'll explain the lines, so don't worry about the lines. I'll explain the lines zigzagging across. And the third part is the functional purposes. So what do you have to do to make sure that you have the values and the purposes are attained? So the workplace premises, these have to be maintained, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Machine tools use management. You have to have exposure prevention, organization management, competence realization. We'll come into details of all this, so I'm just listing them now. Psychosocial environment management, administration. Now, what are the lines? What do these lines mean? These lines are called means ends lines, or means ends pathways. So if you start, for example, from a progressive work environment and you say, okay, we want to have progressive work environment, then you say, okay, what do you think will be attained from progressive work environments? And you see that there's a connection between progressive work environment and improved workers' health and improved safety, improve worker self-actualization, and so on and so on. So every line is connected to what, if you start from any purpose you take on the top, you'll see it connects to the values. So you have what? The values. This should be the indicators. And if you go up, it's why. If you start in the middle and you have the values, these are what do you want? We want to improve workers' health. Why do you want to improve the workers' health? You get it because that's the progressive work environment operation. And if you go down, it gives you the means for doing that. So if you look at improve workers' health and well-being, what are the means? How can you do that? So you need to look at the workplace premises. How are they? How safe are they? You have to look or if there are any exposure to any hazards. You have to look at the organization management. How is the work organized? And so on and so forth. And if you look at, you take the second one, improve safety standards. Again, the work premises, you have to look at it. You have to look at the machine and tools which are used. Are they serviced? Are they proper tools? You have to look at exposure prevention, and so on and so forth. So these lines shows if you pick needs adaptation, what do you need in needs adaptation from the beginning? So what will you achieve with that? So why you need it? What will you achieve with it? And then the means for doing it. This is what you get from work domain analysis. And then you go on further to the artifacts, the physical objects which are needed to do this. But as I mentioned, we'll only look at these three parts. Okay. If you take, for example, this exposure prevention and you go backwards, in exposure prevention, what will you achieve? You'll achieve improved health, and you improve safety and strategy management. And then you can go back to, from improved safety standards, and could go back to the purposes. And you can create such a result chain model where you have the purpose, the functional purpose on the left as your constraining functional purpose. This is what constrains you. You have to achieve that. You have to work within that purpose. And then you have to work within needs adaptation. These are an example. There are more. But what are the outcomes of that purpose-related function exposure prevention? Is improved workers' health, improved safety standard, improved strategy management. You need strategy management for both needs adaptation and progressive work operation. So these are, you have your constraints which guide you to your outcome. And then you have the purpose-related function, the exposure prevention, which is what you need to do. Okay, I hope this is clear. A bit deep and maybe complicated, but don't worry. The next, what is coming next will be very clear. So we start with functional purpose, the why. And we say we have progressive work environment operations. So we said you have to have the purposes first. And these are the purposes we listed. So we have progressive work environment operations. That the operation within the work environment are purposeful. And they are progressive. You are not static. Safeguarding fairness. Everybody is treated equally. Expression facilitation. We've mentioned this. Expression facilitation is where you have workers should be able to express themselves, and they should be able to say that sorry, madam, or sorry, sir, this is not correct. This is not the right way of doing it. Or we think that we can do it differently in a better way. Or the workers should not feel that they have to follow the instructions. Of course, they have to follow instructions, but where they have their experiences and they see things are not working the way they're supposed to, then they should be able to express themselves. And this is something the management has to facilitate, to make sure that workers feel that their expression is listened to. So needs adaptations. You have different people working at the same place. Some need a ramp, maybe. So if somebody is using a wheelchair, you need to have facilities for that person who is using a wheelchair to be able to move around in the workplace. Maybe not necessarily wheelchair, but maybe you have somebody who is asthmatic. Not because of the job, but he started working there, and after a short time, you find out that he's been asthmatic. So you have to make adaptations for that person so that he's not exposed to dust, so that he doesn't get the asthma attacks. So these are the we set as the purposes. And then, if I can get to the values, now we'll see a little bit more on the values. So when we talk about improved workers' health, what is it we want to put under there to say that we can see that the workers' health has improved? We want to reduce the sickness absence, that people are more at work than they are sick at home. So you want your workers to be healthy, to to reduce the sickness absence, that people come to work because they are healthy and not staying at home. Because if they are staying at home, then it means that they are sick, they cannot work. It's not good for the company, it's not good for production, it's not good for anything. It's not good also for the worker. We want to reduce the prevalence of occupational illnesses. I've mentioned asthma, it can be skin diseases. So if you're working with chemicals, you want to reduce the prevalence of skin diseases. You want your workers not to have allergies. You want to reduce work-related health risks. They should be together. Work-related health risks. You want to reduce that as much as possible, because that's how you will improve the workers' health. And this is what you want to achieve. You want to improve workability. Workability is the ability of the worker to perform the duty they are assigned over a long period of time. So you want to promote that. You want to improve that. You don't get employees starting when they are 25, and by the time they are 40, they cannot work anymore. You want them to work as long as possible until they get to their pension time and retire. So you don't want your workers to work only for 1 year or 2 and then not be able to work because they are injured, because they have this problem or that problem. So this is a measure of attainment of the purposes. So if you can see that there is improved workers' health through all this, reduced sickness and reduced workers' health, then you can see that you're on the right path. Improve safety standards. What do you put in improve safety standards? You want to reduce accidents. You want to reduce time lost, low injury frequencies, reduce the use of disability benefits, that people come to work and get paid and not be sick and get paid, because then they can become a liability on the society. You want to work. We want to have safer work conditions. The workload should be such that those who are working can work safely and go home, and not that when they get home they are completely exhausted and cannot do anything. So when you have improved safety standard through, these are the indicators you see that the safety standards have improved. Workers' self-actualization. You want that the workers be involved in decision making. This is a good indicator that you are within the purposes of inclusion and self-realization. But the workers are involved in decision making. You want to bring a new machine to do something. The workers are consulted and they are asked about their opinion. The workers' growth and development. That today somebody starts today as an engineer, and in few years' time they've increased their capacity. They've developed themselves through the work they do. So they're not started that somebody started as a secretary, and 10 years later she's still picking telephones and writing letters. So you want them to develop. Before I started working, actually before going for studies, I was worked very briefly in a bank, in one of the banks in Kenya, and we had somebody who was transferred from another bank, and he had worked in that bank for 32 years, and for 32 years he was doing the same type of work he started. You can imagine how that is. 32 years, same work, same job for 32 years. So, but you don't want that. You want the workers to develop, to be better. You want to recognition of and reviews, that after sometimes, you know, the workers get some kind of recognition of their work, and they are informed. They have autonomy. They can work independently. You don't have to micromanage every little thing they do. The workers have to have satisfaction of their work, that they are happy doing that work, They can see that their value and they value and respect the work, the contribution they work, that the management value it and respect it, the contribution they do to the company, that they can express themselves in their self-concept, who they are. If somebody is religious, he can still be religious and express his being religious and still do the work without any problems. So work in line with the personal values. So if the thing that maybe he has to do will be against his personal values, they should get that possibility not to do exactly that thing, but to do something else. There's more. So we should have programs for health promotions, where those who maybe got injured or they were sick or for some reason they were away from work, they can be reintegrated into the workforce through rehabilitation. There are activities within the work which are health promoting. Maybe there's a gym where people can go and train after work hours. Maybe there are some arrangements that you meet once every 2 weeks for a run together, or going swimming or whatever. That there are some activities which are health promoting taking place. That there's clear management commitment. This is sometimes what is missing most of the time. That there's no prioritization of the occupational safety and health. They are not prioritized at all. There should be personnel support. There should be a positive social climate that management ensure that there's positive social climate where maybe during breaks, there are places where the workers can sit and just talk, take 15 minutes break, drink coffee together in a social gathering, and just have friendly talk with each other from different departments. They get to know each other. That the management is involved in all this, in the positive social climate, and there's a fair and effective leadership, very important. When the employees see that my case will be listened to by the management as anybody else's case, so that there's fair and effective leadership, there's effective communication when something is before it happens, changes which are coming up. There are many changes. So change management, should be communicated to the workers. There should be collaboration with the workers, that the management don't just make decisions which involve workers without having the workers giving their opinions. That the employers take responsibilities for everything that is happening there. And with the responsibility, it comes with accountability. There should be resources allocation. These are as an indication of fulfillment of the purposes of the work environment management. That there should be resource allocation. That there should be expenditure on OSH issues, not just the PPEs, but general expenditure on OSH issues. That there are training. There are the employer meets the training costs of the workers to improve on their work, on their OSH. So the employer should meet the cost, and not that the employee has to pay from their own pocket. And there should be proper compensation and benefits. Where they do overtime, they should be compensated for that overtime. It shouldn't be that now we have a lot of work, everybody has to sacrifice and we have to work overtime. People working overtime, they have to be compensated for the extra hours, extra input which they put in the company. They don't own the company, so if they work extra, there should be compensation for that. There should be compensation when they get injured at the workplace. And it doesn't have to be that it has to go through DOSH to force the company. The company should give benefits to the workers so that they feel that they are part of the company. There should be appropriate staffing, that there are the number of people who are required to do the work, and not that the work of 2 people is done by 1 person. The work of 2 people should be done by 2 people. The work that needs 10 people should be done by 10 people. The work that needs some special competence should be done by people who have that competence. You shouldn't just take anybody because they are there and you put them to do work which they don't have the competence, because then that's where errors start happening and problems start happening and accidents start happening. So proper people for proper work, proper number of people for the number of people who are required. In strategy implementation, there should be OSH policies, and this should be implemented. So there should be strategies for how these policies should be put in place. There should be role clarity with clear expectations. Who has to do what and when? Who is responsible for what? Who is responsible for doing this at what time? And there should be performance evaluation to see that the workers do the work and they have the competence to do it. And if they don't have the competence to do it, then they should be given the possibility to build that competence. So their performance should be according to their ability, and this should be evaluated so that they can be helped to improve their performance. There should OSH integration in the business processes, and this is also sometimes missing. So this, as part of the strategy of the company, it should have all OSH integrated in the business processes and not as a side thing that we have the safety officer's office is a separate office, but it should be part of the business processes. It should have cost effectiveness, especially on OSH issues, that costs are met effectively, and have strategies for overseeing such effectiveness. Compliance and accountability. The management should be accountable for everything that happens. There should be internal audits regularly to see that things are as the way they're supposed to be. There should be compliance with regulatory requirements. This is straightforward. Then we have the justifiable employment. Diversity and inclusion, employment type. We've mentioned about this. If it's permanent or temporary employment, is it a short-time project that you need extra manpower for that particular project, or you have your permanent employees who do certain type of works? So these different type of employment should be justifiable, should as we said, should go according to the time and how the situation is, how the society is, the job quality, fair and employment practices. Nepotism should not be part of the company. Just because an employee has an uncle who is in the management, so this employee gets to supervise others. He should get the supervision position because he is competent, not because he's somebody's godson or somebody's goddaughter. So these are what will indicate as values or principal measures that shows that the purposes of the work environment management have been fulfilled. So we come to the purpose-related functions, and these are the means. So how are you going to do all this? What do you need to look at to be able to do all this? We start with the workplace premises maintenance. So the building itself, the design of the building, the decor, how it is in the workplace, so the physical workplace itself, the indoor climate. It should not be contaminated with chemicals and dust and radiations and noise. Noise should be controlled. You have machines in industries. You have machines which are source of noise. So you shouldn't solve the problem by giving PPEs, but the noise level should be controlled. The ventilation system should be controlled to make sure that those working there have a sufficient clean air. The lighting is proper, that people are not working in darkness. You have where you have machines and tools, so use management of this. There should be safe use protocols and how to plan, how there should be access to necessary work aids. If you have to lift heavy things, there should be aids to help you lift heavy things. You shouldn't lift heavy things more than 23 kilos. You shouldn't tell the other workers to come and help to lift, but you should have lifting aids like cranes and other portable cranes that you can use. There should be technology management, that the technology should be used to help in running the machines. And if you can, it's possible to automate some process, then that will avoid maybe some of the hazardous parts of the work. Then that should be a good thing to do. So it's part of technology management. Exposure preventions. We should think always about exposure to prevention of exposure to chemicals, to biological agents like bacteria, viruses, fungi, to radiation, physical hazards like electricity. Those are physical hazards. The temperature of the place. And then we come to psychosocial hazard. There should be no bullying of each other. There should be no stressing the workers. The workers should not be stressed with overwork and insults and abuse. So mental health part, avoiding unreasonable demands. You don't expect your workers, you don't push them to the limit and expect them to continue to be healthy. As a manager, you have to have demands on your workers that we want the production to be so much in the day, but you can't push them to work unreasonably longer hours because you want higher production, or you want increase sales. You cannot do that. So exposure control measures should be general exposure control, that you think about different hazards and how this can be controlled. So these are purpose-related functions. When these are put in place, and that we are not done, but when these are put in place, you see that we improve, we attain the values which I've mentioned, and then the purposes. So even more, organization management, work planning. There should be work planning. The work is planned. There's risk assessment, internal audits, all other types of control measures. Competence realizations. That information is provided to the workers. They get training. They get personal and professional development. These, when the workers have the possibility to realize competence of the work they do, they get the information, they get training, they can go for training outside the facilities and get more professional and personal development. And they come back and they do the work. They are better, they've improved. So their safety levels have improved, their attitude has improved. So competence realization is something that needs to be done. It has to be done so that you can improve the safety and improve the health and the strategy management. Workers' empowerment, the workers are involved, as I mentioned earlier, that the workers have to be involved. You want to change the machine, you get you consult with the workers also, because they are the ones who are going to use it. Where you have a number of workers, maybe you need to have the work environment committees that can help in decision making. That you have somebody among within the work environment committee who can see something happening and tell the workers, stop doing this work because it's not safe, and they should not be punished for that. So this is part of workers' empowerment, that the workers can make decisions which concern production, for example, without being punished. So if you're working at a construction site and you can see that the scaffold is not proper, so they should be, the worker should be able to say that no, we cannot work here, and they should not be punished. So for that, so in the work environment committee, there should be somebody who can take that up and say, no, this is not safe, don't do it until this is fixed, and they should not be punished for that. So that is workers' empowerment. And when the workers feel that they are empowered to make decisions that involve them and their safety and their health, then they feel part of ownership of the company, and they do more. So we want to have adaptation management. So adaptation for work variation, that people don't do the same work every day. I worked once in one laboratory, and we used to do a lot of tests in small test bottles, which the engineers will take samples and put the test chemicals, and then put in ultrasound and do whatever they do, and then they just take all these glasses, they just send to the department where the cleaning process takes place. And there was a lady there, how she would sit the whole day opening these bottles like this. Whole day will open bottles, empty them, put them in the machine. Open, and just because she was doing repeated work, the work was not, there was no work variation. She started having the tennis elbow. She started having pain in her elbow just for twisting like this. So if there was somebody else there that they had a different type of work where she could do the part of opening a little bit and then go and do something else, maybe she will not have that pain. So work variation, that the workers should have a variation of work, that they can do certain tasks at certain time and then leave that and go and do another task, and then leave that and go and do another task. So adaptation for heavy lifting, where you have to do heavy lifting, where you have to use machines for vibration, it's a very big problem health-wise. So there should be, with adaptation management, it should be possible to rotate the workers so that they can do different things. People working in building construction sites, maybe they work in awkward positions, very, very strange position, because they have to reach out on something. Then there should be adaptation management so that they don't work in those awkward position. There should be time to rest and to restitute. Even if it's 15 minutes break, maybe you work for 1 hour or 2 hours or something, get 15 minutes break to drink some water. Maybe you're working around machines and there's a lot of heat. You need some time away from the machine just to get refreshed. You are sweating and you need the sweat to dry up, at least your body to cool down. And ergonomic considerations have to be looked into. So these adaptation management will help very much the workers in different ways. There's still more. I'm getting there. I know I'm getting there. It's almost at the end. We have the psychosocial work environment management, which is very important. The workers' integrity, dignity. at that you know, you don't call your employees wewe punda kuja hapa. You don't use that abusive language. You have the workers have to have integrity and dignity, and this will make them want to come to work. It's you know, you call them by their name. Try to know the worker's name and call them by their name, and not wewe kijana, or wewe mzee, mbona umezubaa zubaa hapa si pale pa kuzubaa. You know, such things shouldn't take place. So the worker should have dignity at the workplace, and they should feel integrity of the work they do, and the atmosphere there. There should be self determination, contact with others without harassment, threat of violence. But they can have contact with others and talk and talk without employee harassment and without management employee harassment. If they meet somebody from other department, then it should be okay that they sit and talk together, and then the manager should not come and say, hey, what are you doing here? Go to your section, go to your department. There should be that contact allowed without harassment, without threats, or without violence. They should be the employees should be helped with understanding the stress and stress management. They should get support for mental health and well-being, that when they are stressed, and then when they are frustrated, when they have problems from home, then they should get support to help them in their mental well-being. There should be workers' assistant programs that can help somehow the employees. And the last one, they should have this under administration. They should have work controls. They should not be doing work just you know, you just come to work and you don't know how much you're going to be paid. You don't know what is your work description. They should have clear contract that states this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to be paid, this is how many hours you are going to work, your salary compensation for the work, for overtime. Work, they should have work affiliation, that they feel that this is some place I want to come to every day. They should feel that this is a nice place to work. And then there should be affiliation to occupational health services, where the workers maybe periodically can have their health checks, so that they can be suggested to do things differently. You have the safety officers who can come and look at this chair you are sitting and say that this chair is not good for your work. Maybe you should change. So these are different types of functions which need to be put in place. So how do these functions? How Imran has raised his hand. Yes, Imran.
Yeah, so I'll have to leave in a minute or two.
Okay.
But before I go, maybe I can add one more thing.
Please.
Earlier in the presentation, you were talking about societal change and how that will affect occupational safety and health. And I think sometimes we fail to realize when change is happening around us, because it happens so quickly. For instance, I'm sure most of you by now, you are aware of ChatGPT. But maybe one thing you don't know about ChatGPT is that experts were expecting it to actually materialize maybe in the next 10 to 15 years. So the fact that it came last year means that it came earlier than expected. And this is actually terrifying so many people, including the likes of Elon Musk and so on. And so experts are basically astounded by the rate by which AI is accelerating. So at some point, we expect autonomous driving as well to really take off. Like experts were saying, maybe in 20 years, we would have self-driving cars. That could be much earlier. It could be in 10 years' time or even earlier. And so if we have autonomous driving cars, and then if we have robots who can actually work in the workplace instead of humans. So I think you can understand the urgency for us to have proper mechanisms for workplace and safety management. So I guess that's actually my main point, is that we need to have more urgency in how we manage the work environment, how we want to make it safer for the people who are actually working there. Because once we start having robots working in the workplace and self-driving cars, then the dynamic changes very, very quickly. And then we have to come up with new mechanisms and so on. So that's my piece. And thank you, everyone, and good night or good day.
Thank you very much for that addition on societal changes and justifiable work environment. That we have to go with the changes. We have to live the changes and not be surprised when they happen. Thank you for that, Imran, and we'll get back to you at a later point. So let's continue. We are on the last few slides. So what are the design implications? So when we design our strategies for work environment, and we base this on the constraints, what we get is that we get the adaptive implementation of the practices to local contingencies without violating the boundaries of effective performance. So we perform effectively, but because we've looked at what constrains the work, what limitations do we have within the work, and then we work within those limitations, then we make the adaptations as necessary. So we have we limit the structure of the management practices to what will be relevant for fulfilling the functions. So when we started, we say we identify the functional purposes, and these functional purposes are the ones which limit what we want to do or constrain the work we are doing. So when we base our design of work environment management, we design it based on what limits us, what purposes we've set for ourselves. Then we don't just go haywire in doing things, but we do things limiting the management structure to fulfill the purposes we've set. That's why it's very important right in the beginning to start with the functional purposes. What are the purposes we want to achieve with the work environment management? Okay, so to conclude, the work domain analysis provided structure and content of work environment management that supports the management practices and strengthen the attainment of the justifiable work environment. This we don't have to do the once we've done the analysis. Those who will be interested maybe to learn more about the analysis, and you can do it in your workplace. But when we talk about work environment management, after doing the analysis, this is what came out from the work domain analysis. This is what we've gone through now here, and it would be for different workplaces. Maybe there may be some other considerations which need to be taken. I've included some references in the presentations because I've referred to some of these in the presentation, and I've put the references, and you can go and read them. And as I mentioned earlier, you have this publication on exploring work environment management using work domain analysis, which is newly published, which you can also access and read. So thank you for your attention, and now we'll open for question and comments. You can send your question or comment in the chat, or if you have a question you want to ask, you can unmute yourself you should be able to turn on your microphone and ask your question. So, questions or comments or well, this is what we had for you about boundaries of work environment management. I hope it wasn't overwhelming. There's quite a lot of information, but you'll have the presentation and you can go through them again and read the references which are there. And should you have any questions later, you are welcome to send a message to me, and we'll be happy to answer. So if you have any question, any thoughts, any concerns, you are welcome to unmute your microphone and
yeah,
and please.
Abdul, I'd like to
Yes,
give a
Gladys.
comment, not a question. Just
Yes,
to
please.
appreciate the very good presentation, and also to say what I've really carried out from this presentation is the aspect of purpose. You need to understand purpose so that you're able to, get to know the other items that comes after purpose, which I think most organizations don't really understand the purpose of what they are doing. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you very much for that, Gladys. And it's true, you have to have a purpose and understand that. And this the whole entire idea with the work domain analysis is that you want to understand the purpose, because the purpose is the one which will constrain everything else. So once you've determined what purpose you want to achieve, then the rest follow that purpose, because everything you do with the intention of fulfilling the purpose you've set for yourself. So thank you, Gladys, for your contribution. Anybody else who would like to comment, or if you have a question? Or thank you for attending. And as mentioned during the previous webinar, we will be having a series of these webinars. And last time we got some tips on which topics to look into. We will try our best to get experts in those areas and who can make the presentations. And we are planning for the next webinar to be towards the end of May. So this will be monthly. So the next will be towards the end of May. We will inform you. Sorry, this time the information came a little bit late, but thank you for taking time to be with us. So next time, I promise we'll try to make it to give the information a little bit earlier so that you have good time to plan. And if you have any topic you think you want to share with others as an expert yourself, you can let me know. Write to admin@oshproservices.org, and we can see how we can accommodate that. I'll write the email in the chat, so you can write to us and come with suggestion on what you want to present to others, and we'll give you a platform to present, and we'll make announcement for you and everything. So let us know if there's anything you would like to present. So I see no questions. I see no hands raised. So I would like to thank you again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the next webinar. That will be towards the end of May, and the topic will be, you'll be informed of the topic, who the speaker is, as we get closer to the date. So if there isn't anything else, I will call an end to this webinar, and hope to see you again in the next one. And good evening, and have a nice time. Till next time. Thank you and goodbye.